What happens when a CEO goes undercover and realizes his own staff won't even give him a safety vest? Landon McMillan stood at the edge of the downtown lot, squinting under the pale morning sun. Orange cones were scattered like forgotten toys, and faded chalk lines barely marked the parking spots. He adjusted the cheap baseball cap on his head and pulled his jacket tighter. It was his first day as a trainee parking attendant. He wasn't just some new hire. He owned all 19 lots like this one spread across 3 cities. 10 years ago, he started with one cracked strip behind a bakery and a borrowed broom. Now, his company served thousands of cars a week. But lately, complaints had started piling up: rude staff, broken ticket machines, and one customer who said they waited 20 minutes before anyone even showed up. That bothered Landon. He'd never met the manager at this location. Most of the team here were newer hires brought in under a district manager's watch. And with a company this size, it wasn't unusual for folks to never see the owner. He kept his name off the paperwork and used a third-party HR system for hiring. That's how he slipped in unnoticed new guy, Lee, just transferred from another city. At 7:30 sharp, a silver SUV screeched into the lot. A man in his 30s, wiry frame and sunglasses on despite the overcast sky, stepped out. He didn't say good morning. "You're the new guy," he said flatly. "Yeah, Lee," Landon said, offering a hand. The man didn't take it. "Derek, I'm the manager here." "Follow me." They walked toward a small shack at the corner of the lot, barely bigger than a closet. Inside was a folding chair, an old radio, and a broken fan. "No locker room?" Landon asked. Derek scoffed. "What do you think this is, a hotel?" Landon forced a smile. "Right." "What do I need to get started?" Derek tossed him a receipt pad and pointed to a metal cash box. "You'll write the car's plate number, collect cash, tear the stub, and leave it on the dash. That's it." Landon frowned. "No vest, no walkie, even a flashlight." Derek shook his head. "We're not wasting money on junk. If you want to see cars, use your eyes." Landon blinked. "But it's a safety issue." "Then don't get hit," Derek said, already walking off. "Breaks at 11, don't be late." Landon stood there stunned. No gear, no training, not even a safety vest. He looked around. Cars were already pulling in. A woman waved out her window for help. He jogged over, dodging a reversing SUV. "Hi there, just park anywhere in the row and I'll be right with you," he said, out of breath. The woman smiled. You actually said hi." Landon gave a small nod. "Just started this morning." The next 3 hours were chaos. The receipt pad tore too easily. The pen stopped working. Someone tried paying with a card. There was no machine. Landon had to run 3 lanes down to get change from another worker. That's when he met Tara. She was working the far end of the lot, juggling cars, waving people in, and handling cash like a machine. She had a calm voice and kept apologizing to drivers for the wait. "You okay over there?" she called to him. "I'm trying," he said, panting. She jogged over and handed him a spare pen and a roll of change. "Derek never gives out gear. Said I had to buy my own vest if I wanted one," she said under her breath. Landon stared at her. "You bought your own safety vest," she nodded. "I got tired of nearly getting hit. I found one at a thrift store for $6. He looked down at her cracked shoes and fraying gloves. "Do you get breaks?" "Technically, yeah, but we're always short-staffed. I cover 2 shifts most days." "Why?" Tara shrugged. "Because if I don't, no one else will. And I need the hours." Landon swallowed hard. He didn't know what bothered him more, the fact that Derek refused to provide even basic equipment, or that Tara had accepted it as normal. Before he could say more, Derek stormed over. "Hey, we don't chit-chat here." "You're not getting paid to flirt." Tara's cheeks flushed. "He just needed change, Derek. I don't care, get back to your section." She walked away without a word. Derek turned to Landon. "If you can't keep up, you won't last. Don't expect handouts here." Landon smiled tightly. "Got it." But inside, something twisted. He watched Tara pick up a receipt stub that had blown into the street. She waved a car in, then helped an old man park without hitting the curb. She deserved better. And as cars kept rolling in, Landon made himself a promise this wasn't going to stay hidden. Not for long. By the end of the first shift, Landon's knees ached from the cracked pavement. His hands were blackened from handling cash, and he'd already lost count of how many times he'd apologized to angry drivers demanding receipts for their taxes. There was no printer, of course. Just carbon copy slips that tore if you wrote too hard and smeared if you didn't. Derek had never returned after barking at Tara. He'd vanished into the small office, door shut, blinds drawn. Every so often, Landon caught a glimpse of him inside, leaned back in his chair staring at his phone. At 11:30, completely unaddressed, Landon ducked behind the booth and opened a granola bar he'd brought in his pocket. He was barely halfway through when a car pulled in crooked through the exit lane, honking as it went. Landon jogged over. A man leaned out the window, sunglasses pushed up over his shaved head. "Where's the guy with the scanner?" he asked. "We're doing cash and handwritten slips here," Landon said. The man frowned. "You serious? I park here twice a week. They always scan the app." Landon's stomach tightened. "We don't even have scanners here." The man let out a sharp breath. "So what? I just hand you cash and hope you remember my plate. I'll write it down and give you a stub." "This whole setup's a joke," the man muttered, but he reached for his wallet. Landon gave him a stub and motioned him to a spot. A few minutes later, Tara approached from the far end again, holding a small plastic bag. "I grabbed an iced tea for you from the gas station next door," she said, handing it over. "Looks like you haven't had a break either." Landon blinked. "You didn't have to do that. I figured you'd need it. You're doing 3 sections alone." He accepted it with a quiet thank you. "You always cover this much," she nodded, brushing her braid over one shoulder. "I used to work at a different lot, smaller one. But when they closed it, Derek moved me here, said I'd get more hours." "You did?" "Yeah, but no raise, and he cut the weekend differential." Landon's jaw tightened. "He ever explain why?" "Just said we didn't meet throughput expectations, whatever that means." A car horn blasted from the other side of the lot. Tara turned quickly. "That's the 3rd time that guy's double parked. He does it every Thursday." She jogged off again before Landon could ask what she meant. He watched her approach the driver, calmly gesturing toward the lines, then stepping back as the car rolled forward. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't flinch. She handled it with a kind of quiet authority that stood out in sharp contrast to Derek's absence. Landon spent the next hour redirecting traffic after a delivery van blocked one of the exits. Nobody answered the office intercom. He ended up moving cones himself, walking them one by one across the lot. His back screamed in protest by the time he was done. When he finally knocked on the shack's door, Derek opened it half an inch. "What?" Landon kept his tone steady. "We've got a traffic jam near Section C. Delivery van blocked the ramp. I moved cones to redirect traffic, but I need to update the signage." Derek didn't open the door further. "Then write a note. We don't have any markers or signs. Figure it out." "Shouldn't we notify the city?" Derek huffed. "What do you think they're gonna do, repave the lot? We're not paying for that." "You don't have to pay. It's a traffic hazard." Derek glanced over his shoulder. "Look, I'm in the middle of something. If there's a wreck, call the police. Otherwise, deal with it." He shut the door. Landon stood there for a moment, then walked back into the lot. A woman in a wheelchair was trying to navigate the uneven curb near the entrance. He rushed over. "Need help?" She looked up, surprised. "I've been trying to find a ramp for 5 minutes." "There isn't one," Landon said, more to himself than to her. He helped guide her chair down the slope between the sidewalk and the drive. The incline was too steep, and gravel scattered under her wheels. She almost tipped. "Hold on," he said, steadying the handles. Once she was safely on the pavement, she exhaled. "That was terrifying." "I'm sorry," he said. "I'll talk to someone about getting that fixed." She gave a small laugh. "Good luck. I've been parking here for 2 years. It's always like this." No one listens. Landon walked her to her car, heart thudding. Back near the booth, Tara was handing out slips to a line of cars, her face flushed from the sun. She glanced over, eyebrows raised. "She almost tipped, didn't she?" "Yeah." Tara's voice dropped. I've been asking for a proper ramp since I got here. Derek says it's not in the budget. Landon stared at the slope. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Tell me something I don't know. They worked side by side for another hour. No one came to relieve them. The sun climbed higher and the lot filled with heat and fumes. A driver cursed at Tara for not validating his ticket. She apologized. He rolled his window up while still yelling. Landon stepped in front of her. No one talks to staff like that, he said firmly to the driver. The man scowled. She didn't do her job. She did exactly what she was supposed to. If you've got a complaint, take it to management. The car sped off. Tara looked at him, surprised. You didn't have to do that. Yeah. I did. After the rush, Landon walked toward the far corner where another attendant sat on a milk crate, head down. He hadn't moved since morning. You all right? Landon asked. The man looked up slowly. His eyes were glassy and he was sweating. I'm fine, he mumbled. You don't look fine. I didn't sleep. I closed at the other lot last night. Derek told me I had to open here today or lose my shift. Landon's stomach dropped. You worked overnight, the man nodded. No rest, he shook his head. Landon turned without a word and marched back to the shack. He opened the door without knocking. Derek was still in the chair, now eating from a fast food bag. You made someone work a double without sleep. Derek didn't even look up. He agreed to it. He's barely conscious. Then send him home. Get Tara to cover. She's already covering extra, Derek shrugged. You want this job or not? Landon's voice turned cold. I'm starting to wonder if anyone should want it. Derek finally looked up. What's your problem, rookie? Landon stepped forward. You've got people buying their own gear, working unsafe hours, handling ADA violations, and you're sitting here with a milkshake. Derek stood. You don't get to talk to me like that. I'm not a rookie, Landon said. I'm the owner. The room fell silent. Derek blinked. What? My name's Landon McMullen. These lots, they're mine and you're done here. You can't. I just did. Landon turned and stepped outside. Tara was walking toward the booth, eyebrows raised. Is everything okay? He nodded. It will be. Landon didn't waste time. He stepped out of the shack and motioned Tara over. Her brow furrowed as she approached, wiping her hands on her jeans. Can you grab Marcus from the east side? Bring him here. And if there's anyone else who's been working straight through, let me know. Tara gave him a long look but nodded and jogged off. Inside the shack, Derek paced, arms crossed. You think you can just waltz in here and throw weight around? Landon kept his tone even. I gave every manager full authority to run their site responsibly. You abused that. I kept this place running. We hit quota for the last 6 months straight. At what cost? Landon stepped closer. You've pushed people past safe limits, ignored basic infrastructure needs, and created a culture where no one reports anything because they know you'll punish them for it. Derek scoffed. They're parking lot attendants, not surgeons. They collect bills and wave cars in. It's not complicated. Landon's jaw clenched. You just described the most visible part of our business. If they're miserable, the entire reputation falls apart. You're done here. Hand over your keys. Now. Derek hesitated, then yanked the lanyard from his neck and tossed it on the desk. You'll regret this. Landon didn't answer. As Derek stormed out, Tara returned with Marcus, who looked even more unsteady than before. His shirt clung to him with sweat and his eyes were unfocused. He needs to go home, she said. Now, Landon nodded. Marcus, I'll cover your section. Go straight home. We'll arrange transport if you need it. Marcus opened his mouth as if to argue, but then gave a small nod and turned away, legs dragging slightly with each step. Landon turned to Tara. Do you know where the employee files are kept? She raised her eyebrows. Derek never let anyone near them. I figured, stick with me, I need eyes I can trust. They stepped back into the shack. Landon opened the lower drawer of the desk. Dozens of sealed envelopes were jammed together, some pay stubs, others marked incident reports. He pulled out a stack and spread them across the desk. Tara leaned over. That's from 2 weeks ago. I wrote that up when someone got sideswiped near the exit. Derek told me to drop it. Landon read it silently. The driver had clipped a cone, then grazed an employee's arm. No medical report, no records sent to HR. He flipped to another. This one's a customer complaint. Woman said her card was charged twice. She called twice that day. Derek said she was lying. Landon found the slip. It showed 2 entries under the same license plate, both within 15 minutes. He set the stack down. From now on, we log everything. Every complaint, every injury, every shift, and we send it directly to corporate. Tara nodded. You'll need someone to manage that. I know, we'll get there. Right now, I need to talk to everyone. Can you gather the team? She stepped outside. Within minutes, 4 employees stood in a loose line beside the booth. Landon stepped out, set the clipboard down, and looked each of them in the eye. I'm Landon McMullen. I own this company. I've been working here undercover for the past 2 days. What I've seen is unacceptable. No safety protocols, no training, no communication. That ends today. No one spoke. Tara's been running 3 zones. Marcus nearly collapsed, and none of you have what you need to do your jobs safely. That's on me for trusting the wrong people. I can't fix that overnight, but I can start now. He pointed to the gravel shoulder near the entry lane. That curb is going to be lowered. I'll have a contractor here to assess it before the week's out. Until then, we'll mark it and assist anyone who needs help. He turned to the group. Effective immediately, all staff will be issued high-visibility vests, weather gear, and radios. No one works more than 1 shift per day without approval. Any existing pay discrepancies will be reviewed. A quiet voice spoke up. What about breaks? Landon nodded. We're hiring temporary staff to fill gaps. Once we have coverage, you'll get scheduled breaks at the start of every shift. I'll also be reviewing every disciplinary note issued by Derek. If anything looks retaliatory, it's coming off your record. Another attendant, a young woman with short braids, raised her hand. He cut my hours after I asked for Saturday off to see my son. Landon met her eyes. That won't happen again. A few heads bowed, uncomfortable. He looked to Tara. You have field experience. You've been consistent, fair, and calm under pressure. Starting now, you're acting site lead. Her eyes widened. Are you sure? I need someone who understands the ground level. You do. You'll report directly to me or the new district operations manager once we appoint one. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. All right, I'll do my best. I know. He turned back to the group. You'll see changes over the next few days. Some will be small, some won't. But if you see something unsafe, something wrong, or something that just doesn't sit right, say something. And if anyone retaliates for it, they won't be here long. The group nodded, some cautiously, some with visible relief. Later that afternoon, Landon sat inside the shack alone, writing notes. The sun had shifted west, casting long shadows across the pavement. He paused when he heard a knock. Tara stood in the doorway with a folded paper in hand. I found this in Derek's drawer. It's a complaint from a woman who slipped near the meter last month. She broke her wrist. He never logged it. Landon read it. No signature, no follow-up. I'll contact her. Tara stepped back but lingered. You really going to stay involved after this? I have to. Systems fail when you stop looking. She nodded. You want me to start logging equipment needs? Yes. And staff preferences. If someone needs different hours, I want to know why not just what's convenient on a spreadsheet. She smiled faintly. That'll take some getting used to. He stood and looked around the shack. The fan still didn't work. The radio crackled faintly in the corner. But the energy had shifted. The silence wasn't tense anymore. You've been holding this place together with duct tape and grit, he said. Now we build something better. Tara folded her arms, thoughtful. You think the other lots are like this? Landon looked out the window, watching as a customer waved to one of the attendants. I'm afraid to find out. But I'm going to. 2 days after Derek's termination, Landon returned just after sunrise to the downtown lot, this time in a plain polo and jeans, no disguise, no alias. Tara stood near the entry lane, clipboard in hand, talking quietly to one of the newer employees, a teenager named Emil who had been brought over from a quieter location to help cover gaps. She glanced up as Landon approached, but didn't stop mid-sentence. Only when she finished did she walk toward him. "Morning," she said, her voice calm but worn. "We had one no-show and one call-out. I shifted Emil to cover the west lane and pulled myself off admin. That leaves us short on Section C until noon." Landon nodded. "I'll cover it with him." "You stay on coordination." "I'm fine running a section." "I know. But someone needs to manage all this. You're the only one here who knows who's been trained on what." She gave the faintest nod, then turned back to the shack to update the coverage board. Landon headed to the far end of the lot to support Emil, who was still learning the pacing and routine. The kid was eager, polite to customers, but fumbled the receipt pad more often than not. After the morning rush, Landon stood beside the booth, watching as a woman in a city uniform walked the perimeter, clipboard in hand. She was with the city's Accessibility Compliance Office, someone he'd requested after reviewing the incident report from last month. She measured curb height, photographed the uneven slope, and jotted notes before approaching him. "This incline here near the entry," she said, pointing with her pen. "It doesn't meet ADA grade. You'll need a proper ramp and at least 3 feet of clearance along this section." Landon nodded. "Already scheduled a contractor. They'll start next Tuesday." "Good, and these gravel patches, those need to be resurfaced. Loose material can catch wheels." He followed her gaze to the lot's shoulder where small rocks had migrated out from the edge. "We'll handle it." She paused. "Most lots don't respond this fast. I'm used to seeing these same violations sit for years." Landon didn't respond. He didn't need to explain why he wasn't like most owners. By mid-afternoon, the temperature climbed again. With no shade structures and only a few umbrellas, the heat bounced off the asphalt. Tara passed out water bottles from a cooler that had been donated temporarily by a neighboring business. She stopped beside Landon, her eyes scanning the traffic. "Still no sign of a proper break spot," she said. "I've got designs from a prefab company. We'll install a modular booth here and another across town where the north lot is. Airflow, seating, and storage included." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "That'll help." "Not fast enough, though." "No," she said quietly. "But it's something." A red sedan pulled in sharply, tires screeching. The driver, a man in his late 40s wearing an expensive watch and pressed shirt, threw the door open before the car had fully stopped. He stalked toward Tara. "Why is there no valet?" he snapped. She remained steady. "We don't offer valet at this location, sir. We're a self-park lot. I've been parking here for 6 years. There's always someone to park for me." "I think you may be confusing us with the private garage on 4th. "Don't correct me," he barked, jabbing a finger toward her. Landon stepped forward. "That's enough. You're not going to raise your voice at staff." The man turned toward him, sneering. "Who are you, her boyfriend? I'm the owner. And if you continue speaking to her like that, you'll be asked to leave." The man's expression shifted slightly, but he didn't back down. "This is terrible service. You're welcome to take your business elsewhere." Without another word, the man got back in his car and reversed out of the lot, tires screeching again as he sped away. Tara exhaled slowly. "That's the 3rd one this week. They say anything worse than that, you flag it. I'll speak with legal. We'll put signage up about zero-tolerance conduct." She nodded once, then walked back toward her section. Later that afternoon, Landon gathered the current team near the booth. It wasn't a formal meeting, there wasn't time, but they needed to hear what was next. "We're not where we need to be yet," he said, "but we've made progress. Thanks to Tara, we've got tracking on every shift, every equipment request, and every safety issue. Starting next week, we'll rotate in part-time staff from lower-volume lots to help stabilize schedules." One of the attendants, a soft-spoken woman named Grace, raised her hand. "What about pay?" Landon didn't hesitate. "I've approved a site-wide review. Anyone who's been underpaid or skipped for increases will be adjusted retroactively. And starting next cycle, everyone gets a base raise. You'll see it on your next stub." A murmur passed through the group. A lean man with a shaved head and oil-stained gloves, Caleb, one of the longest-tenured staff, spoke up. "You're really doing all this?" "I am." He folded his arms. Why now? Landon looked at him. Because I stopped paying attention and that won't happen again. No one clapped. This wasn't the kind of place where people cheered, but they stood a little straighter. That was enough. The next morning, Landon met with the district HR lead and a neutral third-party rep to review Derek's personnel file. They found 12 complaints that had never been escalated and 3 exit interviews where employees cited retaliation or verbal harassment. Each one was being logged and followed up on. A quiet man named Lewis was reinstated on the schedule after being wrongfully terminated for missing a shift due to a family emergency. He had documentation that was ignored. Landon called him personally. "You're not just welcome back," he told him. "You're owed an apology." "From me," Lewis only said, "Thank you," but his voice cracked. By the end of the week, survey cards had been placed in every booth, not for customers but for employees. Anonymous, Dropbox style. The first few were cautious, then they got bolder. Need 2 fans in the north booth. No airflow, more radios, we're still sharing. Assigning Tara as site lead was the smartest thing this company's done. Landon read everyone. That Saturday, a small box arrived at the lot. Inside were 6 brand new safety vests. Another box followed, gloves, waterproof clipboards, and radios. They distributed them by hand. Tara walked over as the sun dipped low behind the skyline. She didn't say anything at first, just stood beside Landon, watching cars ripple in and out of the lot like a tide. "Emil's improving," she said at last. "Still fumbles change, but he's learning. He'll get there." She glanced sideways at him. "You really going to keep showing up? Not every day, but often enough." She nodded. "Good." They stood in silence a while longer. No horns blared, no one yelled. A breeze kicked up across the lot, stirring dust and candy wrappers near the curb. "You know," she said, "I got offered a job at a valet company 2 months ago. Better pay, I almost took it." "Why didn't you?" She looked out toward the street. "Something told me not to leave. I guess I wanted to see if things could actually change." He turned to her. "Did they?" She didn't smile, but her voice was steady. "They're starting to, and they were. Not because of promises or speeches, but because someone had finally looked at what was happening, really looked and decided not to accept it. Not ever again."